Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters by Anfield Index. There's only a few days until we play the Community Shield at Wembley. There's been tours of the Far East, there's been friendlies back at Anfield. People have been jetting here, there, and everywhere. And I'm not going to lie, it's taken a while to snare him and get him back on, but we do say konnichiwa again to Mr. Lewis Steele. Lewis, how are we, sir?
Yeah, I'm quite tired, actually. I've only been back. I stayed out in Japan for a week, as I was just saying to you off air. So I'm quite jet lagged. I only got back on Tuesday night, Wednesday, early morning. So I'm a bit all over the place with the body clock at the moment. It's midday here, but it feels like it should be about tea time,
Interesting. Well, if you fall asleep, we'll probably just shout some random transfer targets name, like it's probably going to come up in the chat panel at any time, and we will go from there. But it did look pretty good on the photos. So I do actually want to ask a few questions about the Far East. I mean, come out quite well in some of those. I don't know how much touching up has gone, so to speak, but away in the Far East, a good time had.
Yeah, brilliant time. I feel like I've been away for months, honestly. The UK weather, I think, is actually probably quite nice today, but it feels cold considering what I'm used to over there. But yeah, brilliant time, brilliant people, great food, some good times with the other journalists as well, which I'll keep to myself. What happens on tour stays on tour and all that. But yeah, overall, very good trip. Enjoyed it.
We'll see if that still rings true in a minute, because I've got a few questions on that coming your way. But I suppose Far East, we see the photos and the bits. Everyone looks Liverpool daft, don't they? As in the training sold out stadiums, like the autographs, players not able to move outside the hotel. It was just Liverpool crazy there, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's meant to. I've been on a few tours now, and you always forget just how passionate these fans are around the world. Like, they're on a completely different time zone, and they'll be waking up at stupid o'clock to watch Liverpool play on probably on some dodgy streams. So you have to say fair play to them, because I spoke to a few of them, and they share the same passion of all the fans back here. Obviously, they can't go to the games every week. If they did, it would probably cost them about 10 grand, 10 grand a week. So. But yeah, they love it. They're really passionate. They're really crazy about Liverpool, and it's nice to see, really, just how far the club stretches. It's really is not just a local thing. It's a worldwide. It's a worldwide club.
It is cool, and it is seeing those reactions and fresh faces that way is pretty special. And I know you said what goes on tour stays on tour, but I'm going to have a go. Even if you can't give us like the story around this photo, or there's three characters there who I can imagine had a wild night out. Give us your best off-the-field story that you can give us.
Well, what I would say about that photo is I think that's the only night that we didn't have a few beers, because that was after the game, after the Yokohama game, which is about an hour 20 outside of Tokyo. So we didn't get back into Tokyo till about 1 a.m. But just to the right of this picture that you can't see, just over my left shoulder, there is a brilliant bar or club or whatever that we refer to as our local. By the end of the trip, we were in there a lot. May or may not have done a bit of karaoke on the top floor, but I can't confirm nor deny those rumours or tell you any more information about it.
Wow. Can you imagine a Steele, Ghost, Pace treble act? We will ask no more questions on that one. Fair enough. Sounds like a good time by all. And what I also liked, it was good to see your videos. Training was open, so we could see so much. I know you put comments on, little snippets, that. So I suppose I'm kind of asking you a bit of training and the games that were out there as well. Is there a player or players that almost impressed you the most or really stood out?
Yeah, it was interesting being at training, because obviously we don't see it over here. We only see the clips that the club put out. So actually being up close and personal. And sometimes with these open training sessions, it's just a bit of a mess around, or like a bit of a fitness running up and down sort of thing. But they're actually working on proper tactical things. And I got it in the ear a bit for putting videos out about the set piece routines. And I was like, well, if they're inviting me in, then that's my job to not, I'm not an agent for. I'm not like some super spy for Mikel Arteta or Pep Guardiola or whatever. But in terms of the question, I'd probably say Florian Wirtz was the one that stood out the most, just in terms of his ability, both on the training pitch and in the matches. But there's quite a few. Like he's gone today, but Darwin Nunez looked sharp in training. So, I mean, you can read into that what you will. Cody Gakpo was finding the net well, and Frimpong as well, just so fast. But there's some, like, because there's 30 players on the pitch at once in training, it's hard to keep across them all at once. So I'm sure everyone had a good tour in terms of that. But the main thing is it was hard work because it was 37 degrees in Tokyo. Jeez. And I was genuinely like dripping with sweat just standing on the sidelines watching it. So I couldn't imagine what it would have been like, training for an hour and a half in that heat.
Yeah, don't fancy that at all. But I suppose they are professional footballers, and we're talking about athletes as well. You've no doubt I was going to ask you about this kid because, I mean, he's been tearing it up pre-season, and even in your videos, he's been referenced a few times. It looks like maybe we're about to say embarrassed a few first-team defenders on occasions. I mean, from what you've seen and what's being said around the club, are we talking about Rio Ngamo as a potential superstar?
I think he's already a superstar. I think he sort of, the way he played in pre-season, the way he carried himself and the way he scored those goals and the way he dribbled in and out of players, he's already, if he was, I think the only thing that's maybe holding him back in terms of being recognised as a superstar is the fact that he is so young. If he was 22 and signed for 100 million quid from somewhere, everyone would be saying get him in the team every week. I think you do have to go careful with him because he is young. You don't want to wreck his body, so you don't want a situation where he is starting a lot. But he's definitely ready to. I think definitely ready for little cameos off the bench. He's the sort of player that if I was a right back for an opposition team, let's say I was the Bournemouth right back, I would be going to sleep the night before thinking I could get embarrassed tomorrow if this kid comes on because he's so good and he's quite grounded as well from what I hear off the pitch. His attitude is right, and he's bulked up quite a lot. When he first signed, he genuinely looked like a 12-year-old lad. Now he still looks like a kid, but he has bulked up a bit and he's making it harder for opponents to push him off the ball and whatever else.
Yeah, he does look special. As to be fair, young Trey Ione's looked good in this pre-season as well. I suppose we have to talk about it because it can always be sort of questions or negatives, concerns, however anyone wants to put it. Few injuries still, isn't there? I mean, we're expecting Van Dijk and Alisson back. I know they've been missing for illness and different reasons, but I was going to ask you about this. Another Conor Bradley injury, Joe Gomez flies home with a minor Achilles strain. It's that defensive area again. Any sort of updates around those two or concerns, would you say?
I think the concern about Bradley is that it's another injury on top of a few niggly ones last season. They're never sort of long-term injuries. They're all sort of, 3 or 4 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. But it is a worry because, Trent is obviously gone. So Bradley was going to have a more senior role this season, even though Frimpong's come in. And to start the season injured is not a good way to start. I've got a lot of worries about the centre-back department, whether Joe Gomez is fit all season or not, in terms of I think they're a man light in there. So it's been a very weird summer and transfer window in that it's been one of the best transfer windows I think the Prem has ever seen overall. But there are still a few holes in the squad that I think need addressing before the deadline in 3 weeks, 3.5 weeks. So although there is time on Liverpool's hands, the clock is starting to tick a little bit, and I do think they are a couple of men light, which I'm sure we'll come on to in a minute.
Yeah, no doubts at all. And probably the last question, which I don't know if you would be expecting for, because we're talking pre-season, the friendlies and different bits. the new kit got its outing. And I think the night kit last season, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it's the kit we won the league in, so it'll always stick in the memory that way. Adidas, this new kit, what are you reckoning?
I think it's really nice. I think it's a sort of kit that, everyone should be buying. And, we saw at the end of last season when Anfield was turned red, how good it looked. I think if I was in the Kop rather than the press box, then yeah, definitely you should be wearing that kit because it is beautiful. And the only reservation I have is when you can't, like in that picture there with Harvey, it does look a bit Man United-y. That's the only reservation I'd have. But it is very nice. I like it a lot. And the other two kits are nice as well. Maybe we'll see one of them at Wembley on Sunday.
Yeah, suspicion it'll be the white one, the second kit, the away kit, whatever you want to call it, at Wembley. Fingers crossed. So, yeah, plenty going on this summer. And people in the chat, I can see all the comments around Isak, Barcola, all those things. I promised I'm going to put it all to Lewis now. So if we start with incomings, first of all. Now, you probably no doubt I was going to ask you about this. The last time we spoke about 6-7 weeks ago, we wouldn't go, there's a feeling, but maybe with Alexander Isak. I mean, fast forward to today, and obviously your colleague at Daily Mail, Craig Hope's been sort of the Geordie side as well. Is it just almost, you feel a case of we're waiting for Newcastle to get these other forwards in and then it happens?
Yeah, I think there's quite a domino effect in play here. And I do think that once Newcastle get a forward in, which is easier said than done by the look, because they've been trying to do that for 3 months now and failed. But hopefully they do, if they do get a forward in, then I do think Alexander Isak will end up becoming a Liverpool player by the end of the window. But as I say, the clock is ticking. The fact that they've already sold Nunez is sort of maybe weaken the bargaining position, because obviously we know Newcastle want 150 mil. We know that Liverpool don't want to pay 150 mil, and absolute brilliant player, but he is mid-20s. Maybe 150 mil is a bit steep. But if Newcastle get that player in, then there's every chance that Isak will be a Liverpool player. So I do still think it's more likely than not to result in Isak coming to Liverpool. But there's just a few ifs and buts and maybes that need to be ticked off in the next couple of weeks before that can happen.
Yeah, and I mean, there's development, shall we say, on it every day. The latest we've had is that he's trading separate hours from the first team. He wasn't invited to the friends and family Newcastle Players Day and that type of thing. I suppose you were kind of away for this bit, but what a lot of people had questions around was the reporting, because we made that first offer, didn't we? And it was rejected. Of course, it was going to be rejected at that amount. But then there was talk that, Liverpool are going to walk away and that's it. But we all knew they were never really going to walk away, were they, Lewis? It just felt like a start of the chain.
No, I mean, that was a load of rubbish as far as I'm concerned. I understand why they would have that stance, but I didn't believe it for a second, because if you like a player so much as Liverpool do with Alexander Isak, then why would they walk away after one bid was rejected? It didn't make any sense. So I was away and I was glad, because I don't know what stance or what line I would have gone down with that if I was on the clock. But yeah, it didn't add up to me, and it still doesn't. So I do think Liverpool are still in the chase, whatever people say. And I do think, as I just said, if Newcastle get a quality striker in, which is an if, it's not a definite. Yeah. But if they do, I do think that they'll go back in with that second offer, because he clearly wants to move, and I think his reputation or his relationship with Newcastle has gone to a point where it's probably beyond repair now. So it makes sense for Newcastle to cash in now.
Yeah, we are almost just, it feels, still waiting. So we'll see if there's any developments this week. And developments almost between, as you probably clocked, 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. last night. This story went a bit crazy, didn't they? Start to come out of France that Liverpool are moving for Bradley Barcola, and different reports, 100 million euros. is mentioned as a fee. And then your esteemed colleague from the photo, James Pearce, puts the report out to say to Liverpool and not want to block the pathway, quote unquote, there for Rio Ungamoa. Is that the latest that you're hearing as well, that this is more paper talk, or do you think there's anything in this one at all?
Yeah, I think that's probably about right. As I say, I've been off, so I've not really been all over it the way that I would be throughout the rest of the summer. But as far as I'm aware, they do love Ngamoa a lot. So I'm not sure whether they would go for Barcola, especially given his price tag. Even though he's a very talented player, at the moment it doesn't seem like a viable option. But obviously things can change. If the Isak thing falls apart, then maybe it's there. But at the moment, I can't see it.
Yeah, does feel. I mean, there's people talking about both, which should maybe be a dream, and I get that. But yeah, one or the other, and all the money seems to be focused on Isak at the moment. And I suppose whilst that is the case, and people saying, yeah, Isak, please, 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 there in the comments, it seems to have gone quiet on other forward names. And you'll know these, like Rodrigo at Real Madrid, that seems a bit shot down. Malik Fofana at Lyon, who you thought might have been maybe mentioned when Tyler Morton did the move as well. It does seem quiet across other forwards, doesn't it, at the same time?
Yeah, and it probably doesn't suit Liverpool in the pursuit of Isak that it's quiet on other forwards. So yeah, I'm not sure. I don't think Rodrigo's one that's going to happen, and Fofana is one that they've probably looked at earlier in the summer, but it has gone quiet. I've not heard anything on that for a few weeks. But as you say, maybe they did just put the feelers out when they signed when Lyon signed Tyler Morton. But yeah, it's a little bit quiet at the moment, which points to me that all of their eggs are in the Isak basket at the moment. But let's see what happens.
Yeah, it will be interesting to keep an eye on that one. And defenders, you talked about, I think like most people, we are a centre-back light, at least as many feel. And I've seen your different videos. There seems to have been a few names, but almost starting with the one that's gone cold a little bit. Is it kind of just a stalemate around Mark Gay, or could there be anything in this almost after the Community Shield on Sunday still, do you reckon?
Yeah, I wouldn't completely rule out Gahey by any stretch of the imagination. I think that one is still definitely a viable option. The way the land lies at the moment is that Palace just want a bit too much, but I just wonder whether as August goes on and they realise that, hold on a minute, we're never going to get money for this player again, then maybe they'll just budge a little bit. And I think maybe reading between the lines, that could be what's happening. Liverpool maybe sort of just waiting to see if they will lower it. I don't think they'll go for him if they don't lower it, but if they do, then they're definitely there in the sort of race. And then obviously I've mentioned in articles and videos in the past that guy on the screens with Arnie Leone could be an option. He's definitely one that they've kept tabs on. I think the desire is for that young centre back, which I've mentioned a few times over the last couple of months, and he definitely fits he ticks a lot of boxes. But as Joycey says there, sort of maybe Liverpool aren't front of the queue for him at this current moment in time. There's a few other names as well that have been floated around, such as the guy at Wolfsburg that I know Lynchy talked about as well.
Yeah.
But it's a wait and see on that one. I do think they will sign a centre-back, but it might be one that goes until the end of August before it steps up. But let's see what happens with this Leone kid in the next week or so, and whether Palace reduce their sort of demands on Gay.
Yeah, just feel like we'll have to see, but those are the two front runners, if you want to call it that, or the strongest links around at the moment. And I suppose you mentioned this. I think everyone's at the same point. We are, and whilst he's a bit of a cult hero, we are one knock or one small injury away from Endo starting at centre-back pretty much, aren't we, with Gomez out? And they are so short in that area.
Yeah, we are. I think Endo is like a very good defender if he plays there, but I don't think he's a long-term option by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think he should be. I think he should be there as an emergency centre-back if there's an injury crisis, rather than someone who is the fourth-choice defender by trade. So, I mean, maybe Slot has ideas, because this time last year we were all saying they're a midfielder light, and then out of nowhere he magicked up Ryan Gravenberch being the best number 6 in the Prem. So maybe he's going to pull some magic out of his hat again. Maybe Stefan Bajcetic comes into the equation as well, in terms of, is he in the squad as a midfielder, and then Endo is seen mainly as a defender. But yeah, they definitely need to sign a defender for me, because I don't want to call it luck with the injuries last season, but Virgil and Ibu are pretty much ever present, apart from maybe the odd game here and there. But what happens if on the first, or even on Sunday, what happens if Van Dijk does his ACL or Konate does his ACL? Like, touchwood, that won't happen for Liverpool's point of view, but it could happen. Like, look around the Prem at teams last season. Rodri getting out for a season, and we've just seen James Maddison's out for this season pretty much. Right. So that could easily happen, and then they'd be in a bit of a mess, I think. So they need an extra body in the back line, definitely.
Yeah, it does feel the priority above anything else right now. We'll see if any of them develop in the coming week or so. And I'm not going to ask you to sort of nail your colours to the mast fully on this, because anything can change. We know how it works. But is it the feeling for you it will be a forward like Isak and a centre-back, so like two more bodies, unless anything else changes?
Yeah, I do think that'll happen. And obviously a lot of people, mainly of rival clubs, will be saying, oh, how can they afford all this? But in terms of the outgoings, they've brought in close to 200 mil, I think, with the Nunez sale this morning, when that goes through. They've brought in 100 mil from Diaz and Nunez, 110 mil from them two together. Then you've got Morton and Trent and Kelleher. I think I'm missing one, and there could be more to follow with Harvey and maybe Ben Doak. So, and Simicast maybe. So there's a lot of money coming in, so they can definitely afford it. And I think that they will definitely sign a forward now. And I think they will definitely do their best to sign a defender as well.
Yeah, it will be interesting. And I know people will want more than that, but that seems to be the direction of travel. There can always be a surprise, of course. We'll see what develops on that. And you mentioned him, because we got to talk outgoings. Almost, I feel like James Blunt's Goodbye My Lover should be playing when you tweeted this, because the farewell Darwin Nunez tweet went out for yourself, and everyone wishes him good luck as he moves to Saudi. And it seems that's obviously waiting for the medical. That's all done. I suppose the bit I wanted to ask you, and you may have clocked this, different reporting of amounts. Some people like to tell us it's 53 million euros. Then someone tells it's 46 million pounds and add-ons. I know it's never going to be exact, and the club aren't going to give you the bill or anything like that. But is there a figure involved that we can know or reference at this stage?
Yeah, well, it's funny you mentioned James Blunt and Goodbye My Lover, considering we were talking about karaoke earlier. I won't say any more on that. But in terms of the figure, as far as I'm aware, it's about 46, 47 million pounds. I don't like all this, like shifting of how much things actually were, because, I think fans and clubs themselves would say, oh, we've spent this much this summer, and delete the add-ons, but then they'll include all the add-ons for the sales. So you need to just, I don't know. But yeah, they've got about just shy of 50 mil pounds for Nunez, which is probably quite good for what he's contributed. Obviously, it's a big loss on what they paid, which is not good.
Yeah.
Well, I think that is pretty much what they were going to get this summer. I think I said at the start of the summer, like, they wanted about 65, 70.
Yeah.
Never really realistically thought that anyone in the right mind would pay that, which is obviously no disrespect to Darwin, but I couldn't see a club outside of Saudi Arabia paying anywhere near to Liverpool's asking price. But they've got a good deal, I think. They got three seasons out of him? Yeah, 3 seasons out of him. Scored some big goals. Obviously didn't live up anywhere near to what the expectation was, but he's gone now. And I think Liverpool fans will always remember him in a positive way with a bit of a chuckle, maybe.
Yeah. The away goals against that Newcastle double, the Forest last minute, the Brentford away this season, definitely positives in there. And I suppose another forward who everyone's expecting for the exit, but we're still almost waiting a little bit. Federico Chiesa comes on, doesn't he, for Ekitike in the second half against there. But is that still just to give Hugo Ekitike a rest, and we're still expecting a Chiesa departure at some point?
It seems that way, although it is quiet in terms of which clubs are in for him. Obviously, lots in Italy is the one that is good. He'll probably go back to Italy, but it's one of them where it's like it's expected he will leave, but nothing seems that close at the moment. Maybe something's going on behind the scenes that I'm not privy to at the moment, so I should probably try and find out. But yeah, it does seem like he will leave, which is a shame because obviously a bit of a cult hero, got his big song. Seemed to be a good, always laughing and joking on the bench and whatever. But he just didn't get the minutes that he needed, and you can't blame him for wanting to leave. He's come here, he's won the league, and off he goes. Farewell to him. But he hardly got a sniff last season, and I think reading between the lines, Slot just doesn't rate him. So I think that's the end of it, really.
Yeah, it's so many things you can come back for in that regard. And I don't think it's extreme with this player on the screen, but Harvey Elliot, I mean, well down the pecking order now with Wirtz arriving. I think there was always a suspicion this one's going to happen. There's been various reports, I know you'll clock them this week, that Red Bull Leipzig have registered their interest. I mean, there's even been suggestions that, as you mentioned, Maddison's got that pretty much season-ending injury, so Tottenham have been inquiring. Are we expecting something to develop quite soon with this and Harvey Elliot?
Yeah, I'd be surprised if Elliot doesn't leave, which I sort of said all summer, really. I think I mentioned Leipzig about 6 weeks ago when he was playing at the under-21s Euros. They had a lot of scouts sniffing around him there. And it seems like a good move for all parties that if Leipzig are prepared to cough up the money, which is a lot of money. Liverpool want about 45 to 50 million, which realistically I'm not sure Leipzig will pay, but maybe they will, or they'll certainly try and get close to it. But yeah, I just think Harvey, really, really top lad, great professional, great trainer, but maybe is just that tiny level just off the level required for Liverpool, which is a shame for him. But I think this would be a good move for his career, and who knows, maybe he'll do a few seasons there and then be back banging him in at an elite club again after Leipzig if he does go there. So shame for Harvey that it's not worked out in the long term at Liverpool, but I think he still has a very good career ahead of him at club and international level as well.
Yeah, and we'll leave a title winner with a few trophies in his pocket as well and fulfilling a boyhood dream. So fair play when that happens. And I mean, a bit younger, this one, I know David Lynch seemed to have the suggestion, and he put that exclusive, that West Ham Wolves. Anything more around Ben Doak? Because all the noise seems to be pointing towards a departure for him, another forward out the door.
Yeah, that's on my list of questions to sort of ask people about when I actually log back into a proper day of work on Monday, to be honest. But yeah, it does seem like he is heading for the exit. Liverpool wanted about 30 mil in January when Ipswich and Palace came in with about £18 million. I think even Everton were keen at one point. I think I've not heard anything on that for a few months, so I presume that's dead. But I think that a number of Premier League clubs are keen on him. So I think he'll get a decent move. I think there's a very, very good player in there the only worry I'd have with him is his injury record. I think, but the first half of last season, he looked unbelievable at Borough, and I did sort of wonder whether he could step up to Liverpool's first team. And maybe that's not completely over. Maybe they try and sell him with a buyback clause, but it does feel like he's more likely than not to leave. But then again, the fact that Liverpool do have not many forwards, maybe it's a case of Slot and Hughes just sort of saying, do you mind just sticking around for one more year and being that sixth choice forward? So let's see what happens in the next week or so with Doak. But yeah, good player, and I think if they were to sell him, they'd get a decent fee.
Yeah, should do. The talent's there, even if it's not at Liverpool. And I suppose other youngsters, it kind of feels like, I don't know if this is right, that Train Ione, Rio and Gamoa are the stars that Arne Slot wants to work with, real potential. And the rest, we talked about Elliot, Doak, but you could probably include a few like James McConnell, Jayden Danns, probably a raft that are expected. Even if they sign new deals, there'll still be a good clear out of loans, won't there?
Yeah, I think that Slot and Hughes do really like McConnell, actually. But he needs regular game time to sort of, get a bit beefed up a bit. Maybe a little championship loan will do him really well. As we've seen, Conor Bradley, Jarell Kwanzaa going out to EFL and coming back 10 times better.
True.
So, yeah, McConnell, I think Dan's especially, after being injured a lot, he needs a loan. And there's a few others as well still knocking around, as you say, like Lewis Kumas. Obviously made his first team debut a couple of seasons back, scored, didn't he, at Anfield. So there's quite a few players that will still be going out on loan between now and the end of the window. So there's a lot to do in terms of incomings and outgoings for Liverpool. So Richard will be a busy man for the next 3 weeks, and then I'm sure he'll be able to put his feet up in the first international break.
In the bizarrest way, and it's the final question I'll sort of finish on around, and it relates to outgoings, but Richard Hughes, as you mentioned, is made one of the biggest stories, the window. How Richard Hughes was viewed before the start of the window, when all those contracts were lingering and people had questions, to how he's viewed now with renewals that he's got done, the sales, the business it's going through. Is that the biggest shift you've seen in perception, would you say, in recent times?
Yeah, I mean, from the fans, definitely. What I would say is that from people I speak to, like the agents and the people around the club, this time last year, they were saying like, wow, Richard Hughes knows what he's doing. It's almost like one of them things where I sort of wish I put out a big article about him then.
Yeah.
I probably didn't, because I knew I'd get a barrage of abuse saying, oh, he's got you wrapped around his little finger or whatever. But yeah, Richard Hughes, from all the references that I've had from agents, and some of them sort of have said it in maybe a bit of a diggy way, like sort of saying, he's too stubborn, he's too thingy. But he always seems to get what he wants, and that's the main thing. And this summer, he's played an absolute blinder. If he can get Isak and a defender over the line, then I think it goes down as one of the very best windows that I can remember in my whole footballing life.
Yeah, it does feel pretty special. Still time, though. Will Isak come through the door? Will he be joined by Gay, Leone, or another? We've got to see. What did happen in that karaoke bar with these three? We will probably never find out. That will be a secret of the summer as well. All that leaves me to say is ever for the insight, for sharing a few tales, for answering all our questions. Lewis, it is much appreciated.
Thanks for having me on as ever. Have a nice week.
And ladies and gents, that was another Media Matters for Anfield Index.